The name card read Event Support Staff. My hands went cold before my brain caught up. Around me, silk gowns swirled under string lights, while a jazz quartet played something expensive and forgettable. I stood at the entrance to the garden tent, October evening air cool against my cheeks, and stared at that little rectangle of embossed cardstock. My name, Beatrice Monroe, printed in elegant script above those 3 words that turned my stomach inside out: Event Support Staff. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing for this night, 2 weeks coordinating vendor arrivals at dawn, managing catering logistics down to the minute, arranging 300 floral centerpieces by hand because Natalie said the florist didn't understand her vision. I'd hand-stitched custom table linens at midnight when my fingers ached because she was too overwhelmed to manage details while launching her luxury interior design consultancy. This wasn't just any fundraiser. This was Natalie's debut in front of Charlotte's wealthiest donors, 200 influential strangers who could make or break her business with a single conversation. The Whitmore estate looked like something out of a magazine. Manicured lawns, that massive garden tent strung with thousands of fairy lights, tables draped in the linens I'd sewn, centerpieces I'd arranged holding white roses and eucalyptus, and they'd seated me with the catering supervisor and the photographer's assistant. I counted the tables. 14 round tables of 8, all filled with guests in designer clothes and jewelry that caught the light. Lawyers, real estate developers, art collectors, people Natalie needed to impress. At the head table, I could see Preston in his tailored suit, laughing with a man I recognized from the newspaper, some tech CEO. Next to him, an empty chair, Natalie's chair. She was working the room, of course, doing what she did best, charming people, making connections, building the empire she'd decided was worth more than honesty. My table was in the corner, furthest from the stage where Natalie would give her speech, furthest from the bar where deals were being made over bourbon and small talk, close to the kitchen entrance where servers hustled back and forth with trays. The catering supervisor, a tired-looking woman in her 40s with flour on her black pants, glanced up when I approached. "You helping tonight, too?" I opened my mouth, closed it. What was I supposed to say? No, I'm the mother of the woman hosting this event. I'm the grandmother of the children she's using as props in her promotional materials. I'm the person who made half of what you're looking at possible. Instead, I said, "Just finding my seat." She nodded, already distracted by something in her headset. The photographer's assistant, a kid who couldn't have been older than 22, didn't even look up from his phone. I sat down. The metal folding chair was cold through my dress, not one of the cushioned chairs they'd rented for the guest tables. I placed my purse on my lap, folded my hands, breathed in through my nose, out through my mouth, the way I used to teach my pediatric patients when they were scared before a procedure. The jazz quartet shifted into something upbeat. Guests laughed. A woman in a red dress threw her head back, diamonds at her throat catching the light. A man in a gray suit checked his watch, then turned to the person next to him and said something that made them both chuckle. Nobody looked at me. Nobody waved. Nobody seemed to notice that the woman who'd been at the Whitmore house every single day for 3 years, who'd picked up their dry cleaning and cooked their Sunday dinners and rocked their babies to sleep, was sitting in the corner like help who'd wandered in by mistake. Then I saw her, Natalie, my daughter. 29 years old, blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. That Vera Wang dress hugging her frame like it was made for this exact moment. Because it was. She'd had 3 fittings. I'd watched her practice her speech in the mirror while I folded laundry in the next room. She moved through the crowd like she owned it, touching arms, leaning in to whisper, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear from where I sat. When she passed my table, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral and sharp, she didn't make eye contact. Her gaze slid right past me like I was part of the decor, like I was one of the centerpieces I'd spent hours arranging. My throat closed. Not from tears, I'd cried those out months ago, but from something colder, something that felt like understanding finally landing after years of pretending not to notice. I looked down at the name card again, ran my thumb over the embossed letters. Event support staff. Not Beatrice Monroe, mother of the host. Not Beatrice Monroe, beloved grandmother. Not even just Beatrice Monroe, at a table with other family members who couldn't quite fit at the head table. Event support staff. I'd been erased. In front of 200 people who mattered to Natalie's future, I'd been reduced to something less than a guest. Someone who helped. Someone whose name went on a different list than the people who counted. The jazz quartet finished their song. Polite applause rippled through the tent. A server appeared at my elbow with a tray of champagne glasses. "Ma'am?" I took one. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me. "First course in 10 minutes, the catering supervisor said to her headset, then glanced at me. "You're welcome to eat before you start your shift, if that's what you're here for." My shift. I set down the champagne, stood up, picked up my purse. The name card was still in my other hand. I'd been holding it this whole time without realizing. "Excuse me," I said quietly. She nodded, already back in her headset, coordinating something with the kitchen. I walked toward the exit. Not the main entrance where guests were still arriving, but the side path that led to the parking area. My heels clicked on the stone walkway. Behind me, laughter and music and the sound of 200 people enjoying a night I'd helped create. Nobody stopped me. Nobody called my name. Nobody noticed I was leaving. I got to my car, a 12-year-old Toyota that looked shabby next to the Mercedes and BMWs and Teslas parked in neat rows, and sat in the driver's seat with the door closed. The name card was still in my hand. Event support staff. I turned it over, blank on the back. For 18 months, I'd been avoiding something. A conversation I'd had with Russell's former HR representative, back when I was still trying to understand how Natalie and Preston ended up with his life insurance money. A conversation that planted a seed of suspicion I'd been too afraid to water, because watering it meant losing access to my grandchildren, meant burning bridges with the only family I had left, meant admitting that the people I'd sacrificed everything for had been planning this erasure all along. I looked at the name card one more time. Then I put it in my purse, started the car, and drove straight to the Wells Fargo branch on Providence Road. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I picked up the card, walked to my car, and drove straight to the bank I'd been avoiding for 18 months. Comment: I would have stayed or I would have left. What's your move? The kitchenette had one working burner and a mini fridge that hummed too loud at night. They called it a mother-in-law suite. I called it what it was, a place to keep me useful and out of sight. Let me take you back 3 years to where this whole thing started. Russell died on a Tuesday in March 2021. Heart attack. Sudden. 1 minute he was loading groceries into the car at the Harris Teeter on Sharon Road. The next minute he was on the ground and paramedics were doing compressions, and I was standing there holding a bag of oranges like an idiot, watching my husband of 28 years disappear. The ranch house we'd shared felt too big after, too quiet. I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and reach for him and find cold sheets. I'd make coffee for 2 and then pour the second cup down the sink. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand, his jacket still hung by the door. Natalie came to the funeral in black Chanel, Preston beside her in a suit that probably cost more than our mortgage payment. She hugged me tight, whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mom," into my hair, and I believed her. I believed she was grieving too. I believed she cared. 2 weeks later, they made the offer. "Mom, you can't stay in that house alone," Natalie said. We were sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd taught her to do fractions, where we'd had birthday dinners, where Russell had proposed to me 30 years ago on Christmas Eve. "It's too much for you. The yard, the maintenance, everything, and you shouldn't be alone right now." Preston nodded. "We have the guest house. It's perfect for you. Private entrance, your own space, but close enough that we can help with anything you need." Guest house, that's what they called it. What it actually was, a converted 2-car garage behind their Myers Park estate. They'd added drywall and a bathroom and called it a mother-in-law suite for resale value, but it still had that garage feel. Concrete floor covered with cheap laminate, One small window, a kitchenette that was really just a hot plate, a mini fridge, and a microwave crammed into an alcove. "You'd be doing us a favor, actually," Natalie added. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We're both working so much, and the kids need more attention than daycare can give them. If you were there, you could pick them up from school, help with homework, maybe cook dinner a few nights a week. It would be perfect." Perfect for who, I should have asked. But I didn't, because I was grieving and alone, and the thought of staying in that empty ranch house felt unbearable. Because my grandchildren, Emma, who was 5, and Lucas, who was 3, needed me. Because Natalie was my daughter, and I wanted to believe she was offering help, not servitude. I moved in 2 months later, sold most of my furniture because there was no room for it, gave away Russell's clothes. Packed up 30 years of life into boxes that went into a storage unit I'm still paying for. The guest house had a squeaky garage door. The opener had never been replaced, so every time I went in or out, it groaned like it was complaining. The kitchenette tiles were cream-colored but always looked dirty no matter how much I scrubbed. The mini fridge hummed so loud at night I had to unplug it to sleep, which meant my milk went bad twice a week. But I told myself it was temporary. I told myself Natalie and Preston were being generous. I told myself I was helping family. The first week, I picked up Emma and Lucas from school, made them snacks, helped with homework, read bedtime stories. Natalie came home at 7, kissed the kids, and said, "Thank you so much, Mom. I don't know what we'd do without you." The second week, Natalie asked if I could do the grocery shopping since I was already out. Then if I could fold the laundry that was piling up in their mudroom. Then if I could meal prep for the week so she didn't have to think about dinner. By the third month, I was working a full-time job without a paycheck. I woke at 6 to get the kids ready for school, packed lunches, drove them in my old Toyota while Preston and Natalie left in their matching BMWs. I cleaned their house while they were gone, dusted the bookshelves in Preston's study, vacuumed the Persian rugs Natalie had picked out with an interior designer, scrubbed the 6-burner stove she never used because I was doing all the cooking. I picked up the kids at 3, managed homework and activities and play dates and dinner and baths and bedtime. At night, I walked back to the converted garage, heated up leftovers on my single working burner, sat on the cheap futon they'd bought at IKEA and told me was actually pretty comfortable, watched TV on my phone because there was no cable hookup, listened to the mini fridge hum. From my one small window, I could see the main house, the kitchen where Natalie hosted dinner parties for Preston's colleagues, the living room with floor-to-ceiling windows where they celebrated holidays with matching pajamas and professional photos, the master bedroom upstairs where the lights stayed on late while they worked on their laptops, building their careers, their future, their empire. I was outside looking in, literally. 3 months in, I worked up the courage to ask about compensation. We were in their kitchen, Natalie's kitchen, I should say. She was looking at paint swatches for a client's renovation. I was unloading the dishwasher. Emma and Lucas were watching cartoons in the den. "Natalie," I said carefully, "I wanted to talk about the arrangement we have." She glanced up. "What about it?" "I'm here every day, watching the kids, cooking, cleaning, managing schedules. I'm happy to help, but I was thinking maybe we could formalize things. An employment contract or compensation or even just clarity about what's expected?" Her expression shifted. Not angry, worse than angry, surprised. Like the idea had never occurred to her. "Mom, you're family. We're not going to pay you to spend time with your grandchildren. It's not just spending time with them. It's full-time childcare. It's housekeeping. It's—" Preston walked in then, coffee mug in hand. He caught the end of the conversation, smiled at me in that way he had, warm, reassuring, completely empty. "Beatrice, you're part of this family. Everything we have, we share. We'll make sure you're taken care of." He took a sip of coffee. "In fact, we've been meaning to update our estate plan. We'll make sure you're included. You won't have to worry about anything." Natalie nodded. "Exactly. Mom, you don't need to stress about this. We've got you." The estate plan. I waited for it. Weeks passed, then months. I brought it up twice more, gently, and both times got the same reassurance. We're working on it. Our attorney is drafting something. We'll sit down and go over everything soon. It never came. But the work kept coming. More laundry, more meals, more scheduling. Natalie's design business took off, which meant longer hours, more stress, more leaning on me to keep the household running. Preston was up for partner at his law firm, which meant late nights, business trips, expectations that dinner would be ready when he got home, and the kids would be in bed, and everything would be handled. I handled it. Because what choice did I have? The ranch house was sold. My savings were dwindling. I had nowhere else to go. And if I pushed too hard, if I complained too much, I risked losing access to Emma and Lucas, the only good thing left in my life after Russell died. So I stayed in the converted garage with the squeaky door and the humming mini fridge and the single working burner. I organized toys every night that would be scattered again by morning. I scrubbed counters and folded tiny clothes and made lunches with notes that said, "Grandma loves you," tucked inside. And I told myself this was family. This was love. This was what you did when people needed you. When I asked about compensation 3 months in, Preston smiled over his coffee. "Your family, Beatrice. We'll make sure you're taken care of." The estate plan never arrived. Ever been promised, "We'll take care of you" with nothing in writing? Drop your story below. The branch manager hesitated before sliding the folder across the desk. "Mrs. Monroe, are you sure you want copies of all transactions?" I nodded. My hands didn't shake until I opened the first page. It was Monday. The gala had been Saturday night. I'd spent Sunday in the converted garage, door locked, phone turned off. Natalie had texted twice. "Where did you go last night?" Then, "Mom, call me when you get this." I didn't call. Monday morning at 9, I walked into the Wells Fargo on Providence Road, the branch I'd been to 100 times with Russell, where we'd opened our first joint account when we got married, where we'd deposited birthday checks and tax refunds and the small inheritance from his parents. I asked to speak to someone about Russell's accounts. They put me in a small office with glass walls and a desk covered in financial pamphlets. The branch manager, a woman named Kelly with kind eyes and sensible shoes, pulled up records on her computer. "Mrs. Monroe, I'm looking at the accounts registered to Russell Kincaid, checking, savings, and the life insurance payout that came through in 2021. She turned the screen so I could see. "What specifically do you need?" "Everything," I said. "I want copies of all transactions related to the life insurance. Who received it? Where it went. Everything." She blinked. "Mrs. Monroe, are you aware that the life insurance funds were distributed to the named beneficiaries? The payment went out nearly 3 years ago." "I know, I want to see where it went." Kelly shifted in her chair. "I can provide account activity, but I need to confirm. You're listed on some of these accounts as an authorized user from when your husband was alive, but the beneficiary accounts, those might require additional authorization." "I was Russell's wife for 28 years. That money came from a policy he took out to protect me. I need to see the records." Something in my voice must have convinced her. She printed documents for 20 minutes, page after page, stapled into a folder that got heavier as it filled. "This is everything I can access," she said finally. "Transaction logs, distribution records, and the original beneficiary designation form that was updated in 2021. Updated. I took the folder. Thanked her. Walked out to my car on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Sat in the driver's seat with the folder on my lap. Opened it. The first page was the policy summary, Russell's name, his social security number, date of death, March 16, 2021. Benefit amount $470,000. $470,000. The ranch house we'd lived in was worth maybe $200,000. Paid off. Russell had been careful about that. "When I'm gone," he used to say, "you won't have to worry about a mortgage." He'd taken out the life insurance through his job at the freight logistics company when Natalie was born. Increased it twice, once when she started college, once when she graduated. "This is for you," he'd told me. "For your future? So you're secure no matter what." I turned to the next page. Beneficiary Designation Form. Primary Beneficiary, Natalie Whitmore, née Kincaid. Contingent Beneficiary, Preston Whitmore. Date updated October 14, 2021. October 14th, 2 days before Russell died. 2 days before he collapsed in the Harris Teeter parking lot while I was picking out oranges. I circled the date with a pen from my purse, stared at it. 2 days. Russell had been in the hospital for emergency cardiac catheterization on October 12th. He'd been having chest pains for a week but kept brushing them off. "Just stress, B, I'm fine," until the pain got so bad he couldn't ignore it. The doctors did the procedure, kept him overnight for observation, loaded him up with medications. He came home on October 13th, groggy, confused, kept forgetting what day it was. I'd asked the doctors about it, and they'd said it was normal, the anesthesia, the pain medications, the stress of the procedure. Give him a few days to clear his head. He didn't get a few days. He got 3, and on October 14th, while he was still medicated, still foggy, still barely able to hold a conversation without drifting off mid-sentence, someone had him sign a form changing his life insurance beneficiary from me to our daughter. I turned to the transaction log. Payments distributed on April 3, 2021, 2 weeks after Russell's funeral. $470,000 deposited to account ending in 7743. I didn't recognize the account number, looked at the account holder name. Preston A. Whitmore. Preston's account, not joint with Natalie, his. The next pages showed where the money went. I highlighted as I read $85,000. Myers Park Estate renovations. Kitchen remodel, new roof, landscaping, a $20,000. NKW Design Group LLC Startup Capital, Natalie's design firm, $45,000. BMW X5, Natalie's car, $38,000. Audi Q7, Preston's car, $52,000. Private school tuition for Emma and Lucas, 2-year prepayment, $28,000. Vacation property rental, Kiowa Island, 3-week summer booking, $15,000. Furniture and decor, restoration hardware, custom pieces, on and on, line items, dates, amounts. My husband's life insurance, the money he'd set aside to protect me, spent on cars and renovations and business ventures and vacations. I flipped to the last page, current balance in account ending in 7743, $320,000. $320,000. Still sitting there, untouched after the initial spending spree. I closed the folder. My hands were shaking now. I opened it again, went back to the beneficiary form. The signature at the bottom, Russell's signature, looked wrong, too smooth, too steady. Russell's handwriting had always been a little shaky, a little cramped from years of gripping pens and filling out logistics paperwork, but this signature was clean, confident. The letters evenly spaced. Not the handwriting of a man 2 days out of a cardiac procedure. Not the handwriting of a man on morphine and blood thinners and anti-anxiety medication. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through photos until I found one from 2020. Russell's birthday card to me, his handwriting. I compared it to the signature on the form. Different. Subtle, but different. The baseline slant was off. The pressure, the way certain letters pressed harder into the paper, wasn't right. The beneficiary form was dated 2 days before Russell died. The signature looked wrong. Too smooth, too steady for a man on morphine. One signature can cost you everything. Subscribe so you catch the warning signs before they do. Pause. Look at that date again. 2 days before death. Heavy medication. What's your verdict? Her voice dropped when I mentioned the beneficiary form. Mrs. Monroe, your husband was barely conscious that week. I remember because I had to witness his signature on disability paperwork. He couldn't hold the pen steady. Her name was Diane Holloway. Russell's former HR representative at Carolina Freight Solutions, the logistics company where he'd worked for 19 years. I'd met her twice, once at a company holiday party, Once at Russell's retirement luncheon when he finally left at 63 because his back couldn't take the warehouse work anymore. I found her number in an old address book Russell kept in his desk drawer. Called her Monday afternoon, sitting in my car outside the Wells Fargo with that folder still on my lap. "Mrs. Monroe?" She sounded surprised. "I haven't heard from you since... I'm so sorry about Russell. He was one of the good ones. Diane, I need to ask you something. It's about Russell's life insurance." Silence. Then, carefully, "What about it?" "Do you remember anything about him updating his beneficiary form in October 2021, right before he died?" More silence, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Quieter, tense. "Mrs. Monroe, can we talk in person?" "I'd rather not do this over the phone." We met at a Panera Bread in South End, neutral territory. Diane was in her mid-50s, graying hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing hospital scrubs. She'd switched jobs after the freight company downsized, now worked in medical records at Atrium. She ordered tea. I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink. We sat in a corner booth away from the lunch crowd. "Talk to me about October 2021, I said. Diane wrapped both hands around her tea mug. "Russell came in on October 14th, late morning, maybe 11. He needed to sign some disability paperwork, short-term leave forms because of the cardiac procedure, company policy." "Was he himself?" She shook her head. "He was a mess, Mrs. Monroe. I mean that respectfully. He couldn't sit still. Kept losing his train of thought mid-sentence. Asked me 3 times what day it was. When I gave him the pen, his hand shook so bad he dropped it twice before he could sign." I pulled out my phone, showed her the photo of the beneficiary form signature. "Does this look like the signature you witnessed?" Diane studied it, frowned. "No, that's too clean. The signature I witnessed, he could barely keep the pen on the line. The letters were all over the place. I actually had to note in the file that his motor control was impaired due to medication." "You documented that?" "I had to, for liability. If he'd signed something while impaired and tried to claim later he didn't understand what he was signing, the company needed proof we'd noted his condition." My heart started hammering. "Diane, do you still have access to those files?" "I kept copies when I left the company. Just personal backups of my caseload, in case anything came up." She hesitated. "Mrs. Monroe, why are you asking about this?" I told her. "The life insurance. The beneficiary change dated October 14th. The money going to Natalie and Preston. The fact that I'd never received a penny of it. The converted garage I was living in. The unpaid labor. The gala name card." Diane's expression went from concerned to angry. "That's elder financial abuse. And if someone forged his signature while he was medically compromised, that's fraud." "Can you prove he was medically compromised on October 14? She pulled out her phone, scrolled through something. I logged it. October 14, 2021, 11:17 a.m. Russell Kincaid unable to complete signature on initial attempt due to medication-related motor impairment. Required assistance steadying hand. Cognitive status questionable. Repeated questions multiple times. Appeared disoriented." I stared at her. "You time-stamped it." "I always time-stamp my notes. Learned that lesson the hard way in my first HR job." She looked at me. "Mrs. Monroe, Russell loved you. Every time I talked to him, he mentioned you. When we did his retirement paperwork, he specifically asked me to double-check that you were listed as his life insurance beneficiary. 'B's got to be taken care of,' he said. Those were his exact words." My throat tightened. "When was that?" "March 2019, 2 years before he died. He came in specifically to review all his beneficiary designations after your daughter got married. Said he wanted to make sure everything was in order. March 2019. Russell had named me as his beneficiary 2 years before the form was allegedly changed. 2 years before someone convinced him, or forged his name, while he was barely conscious in a hospital bed." Diane reached across the table and put her hand over mine. I kept the witness log. It's time-stamped, notarized, everything. If you need it, it's yours. Would you trust an HR rep from 3 years ago, or keep digging alone? Monica didn't lean back in her chair. She leaned forward, elbows on the desk, eyes on the hospital records. Mrs. Monroe, this isn't a paperwork mix-up. This is theft. I found Monica Treadwell through an internet search. Estate fraud attorney, Charlotte, NC. Her website showed a professional headshot. 50-something black woman with natural hair, sharp suit, expression that said she didn't waste time. Reviews called her relentless, detail-oriented, the attorney who actually fights for you. Her office was in Dilworth, second floor of a renovated historic building. Clean lines, law books floor to ceiling, a desk covered in organized files and yellow legal pads covered in notes. I called Monday afternoon, got an appointment for Tuesday morning, brought everything. The Wells Fargo folder, Diane's time-stamped witness log, photos of Russell's handwriting, hospital discharge papers from his cardiac procedure, the gala name card. Monica spent 20 minutes reviewing documents without speaking, just reading, highlighting, making notes on a legal pad. Finally, she looked up. Walk me through the timeline. Russell goes in for cardiac catheterization on October 12th. What medications was he on? I pulled out the discharge papers. Morphine for pain, lorazepam for anxiety, blood thinners, beta blockers. And his cognitive state when he came home? Confused, disoriented, kept forgetting conversations we just had. I asked the doctors and they said it was normal after anesthesia and pain medication. Monica made a note. October 14th, 2 days later, this beneficiary form is allegedly signed. But Diane Holloway's witness log from the same day, same time period, shows Russell could barely hold a pen and was repeating questions due to medication impairment. Right. She tapped the signature with her pen. This signature is too clean. Look at the baseline. Look at the letter formation. This isn't the signature of someone whose hand is shaking. This is either forged or traced. Can you prove that? We'll need a forensic document examiner. They'll compare authenticated signatures. She gestured to the photos I'd brought. With this disputed one, they'll look at pressure patterns, stroke formation, tremor evidence, hesitation marks. If this was signed by someone whose motor control was impaired, there will be physical evidence in the pen strokes. She flipped to the next page. The transaction log scanned the highlighted items. $470,000. They spent $150,000 in the first 6 months. Cars, renovations, business startup. Then the spending slowed. She looked at me. Mrs. Monroe, where are you living right now? Their guest house, converted garage. Are you paying rent? No, but I'm providing full-time childcare, housekeeping, cooking, schedule management. They told me I was helping out in exchange for housing. Monica's jaw tightened. That's exploitation. You're providing services worth at minimum $60,000 annually, full-time nanny rates in Charlotte, and receiving substandard housing with no compensation. They said I was family, that they'd take care of me in their estate plan. Do you have that in writing? No. Have they updated their estate plan to include you? I don't think so. They keep saying they're working on it. Monica set down her pen, looked at me straight on. Mrs. Monroe, here's what I see. Russell had a valid life insurance policy with you as the named beneficiary as of 2019, 2 days before his death, while he was medically compromised and on heavy medication. Someone changed that beneficiary to your daughter. A witness log from the same day proves Russell was impaired. The signature on the form looks inconsistent with his known handwriting. The money went directly to your son-in-law's personal account and was spent on luxury items and business investments while you received nothing. You were then moved into substandard housing and exploited for unpaid labor under false promises of future financial security. She leaned forward. This isn't a family dispute. This is undue influence, lack of capacity, and procedural fraud. We can challenge this. My hands were shaking. How? We file an emergency petition to freeze the remaining funds. We challenge the beneficiary designation on 3 grounds. Russell lacked capacity to execute the form due to medication and cognitive impairment. The signature shows evidence of forgery or undue influence, and the circumstances around the signing suggest exploitation of a vulnerable person. Will a judge actually listen? With this evidence, yes. Hospital records proving medication and cognitive impairment. Witness testimony from an HR professional who documented his condition on the same day. Forensic handwriting analysis. Financial records showing you received nothing while they spent freely. And Mrs. Monroe, she picked up the gala name card. This shows pattern and intent. They've been erasing you systematically. This isn't just about money. This is about power and control. She slid a legal pad across the desk, 3 words at the top in her sharp handwriting: freeze the funds. Underneath, we file Wednesday. Delay costs you leverage. Subscribe. Next move drops before you're ready if you don't. Predict. Will the judge grant the freeze? Yes or no in the comments. The subject line was harmless. Dad's paperwork, quick question. The body was a grenade. Secure the insurance payout before your dad changes his mind again. Monica called me 3 days after we filed the emergency petition. Mrs. Monroe, we got the subpoena results, Preston's work emails. You need to see these. I drove to her office. She had printouts waiting on her desk, organized in clear plastic sleeves like evidence, which I guess they were. Discovery works both ways, Monica said. They challenged our petition, which gave us the right to subpoena relevant communications. Preston's employer had to turn over emails from his work account during the relevant time period. She slid the first printout across the desk. From preston.whitmorevbaxtertaxlaw.com to natalie.kincaid.personalodgmail.com. Date, October 11th, 2021, 9:47 p.m. Subject, Dad's paperwork. Quick question. We need to secure the insurance payout before your dad changes his mind again. Get him to sign the new form this week if possible. Timing is everything. The hospital visit gives us a window. He's medicated, cooperative. Don't wait. Let me know when it's done. I read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't change. October 11th, Monica said quietly. 1 day before Russell's cardiac catheterization, 3 days before the beneficiary form was dated. My hands went numb holding the paper. Timing is everything. The hospital visit gives us a window. There's more, Monica said. She slid another printout across, from preston.whitmorevbaxtertaxlaw.com to natalie.kincaid.personalodgmail.com. Date, March 30th, 2021. 8:14 a.m. Subject, estate planning. We locked in the life insurance. Natalie's mom won't be an issue. She doesn't have the resources to fight, and she's too scared to lose access to the grandkids. We'll keep her in the guest house doing nanny work until we don't need her anymore. Then we transition her to assisted living or somewhere cheaper. She'll never know what happened. March 30th, 2 weeks after Russell's funeral. 2 weeks after I'd stood at his graveside holding Natalie's hand while she cried into my shoulder. I read the last line again. She'll never know what happened. Mrs. Monroe? Monica's voice came from far away. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The words on the page blurred, but I could still see them, burned into my vision. Nanny work until we don't need her anymore. Take your time, Monica said. I set the paper down. Pressed my palms flat on the desk, counted to 10. He planned this, I said finally. My voice sounded strange, hollow. Before Russell even died, Preston was already planning how to control me. Yes, and Natalie knew. She was part of it. Monica nodded. These emails went to her personal account. She responded. I have those too, but they're less explicit. Mostly logistics. I'll talk to him tomorrow. Got it. But she knew Mrs. Monroe. She participated. I looked at the second email again. Resources to fight. Access to the grandkids. Nanny work. They knew I'd be afraid to lose Emma and Lucas, I said. They weaponized my grandchildren. That's exactly what they did, and they documented it in writing. Monica tapped the printouts. This is Exhibit A. Preston's own words prove intent, premeditation, and exploitation. He admits you have no resources to fight. He admits they're using access to your grandchildren as leverage. He admits the plan to keep you in substandard housing, doing unpaid labor. She pulled out a highlighter, drew yellow lines under 3 phrases. Secure the insurance payout before your dad changes his mind again. She doesn't have the resources to fight. We'll keep her in the guest house doing nanny work until we don't need her anymore. Any one of these would be damaging, Monica said. Together, they're devastating. The court will see premeditation, manipulation of a vulnerable widow, and exploitation of familial relationships for financial gain. I stared at the highlighted phrases. My son-in-law's words, cold, calculated, written casually like he was discussing a business transaction. What about Natalie? I asked. What did she say in her responses? Monica hesitated. Do you want to see them? Yes. She pulled out another printout. From natalie.kincaid, personalagmail.com, to preston.whitmoreebaxtertaxlaw.com. Date, October 12, 2021, 6:23 a.m. Subject. Dad's paperwork. Quick question. I'll handle it today at the hospital. He's groggy, but he trusts me. I'll tell him it's just updating his records. My daughter, who I'd raised, who I'd worked double shifts to put through private school and Duke University, who I'd taught to read, to ride a bike, to stand up for herself. She'd gone to that hospital room knowing Russell was medicated and confused. She'd used his trust. She'd lied about what the form was. There's one more, Monica said softly, from natalie.kincaid, personalagmail.com, to preston.whitmoreebaxtertaxlaw.com. Date, March 31st, 2021, 10:52 p.m. Subject, estate planning. Mom's moved into the guest house. She's grateful, which makes this easier. She won't ask questions. She never does. I folded my hands in my lap, looked at Monica. How fast can we use these? They're already attached to our amended petition. I filed it this morning. She leaned forward. Mrs. Monroe, these emails change everything. Preston's attorney can't claim this was a misunderstanding or a family dispute. This is documented fraud and elder abuse. The court will see exactly what happened. Will they try to claim the emails are fake? They're authenticated by his employer's IT department. Timestamps, server logs, metadata, all verified. These are real and they're admissible. I picked up the first email again. Read it one more time. Timing is everything. The hospital visit gives us a window. Russell had been scared in that hospital. I remembered holding his hand while they prepped him for the catheterization. The way his fingers shook, the fear in his eyes when the anesthesiologist explained the procedure. You'll be with me after? He'd asked. You won't leave? I'll be right here, I'd promised. But I wasn't. Because after the procedure, while he was in recovery, Natalie had sent me home. Mom, you look exhausted. Go rest. I'll stay with Dad. I'll call if anything changes. I trusted her. I'd gone home. And while I was gone, while Russell was medicated and alone with our daughter, she'd had him sign away my future. Monica printed both emails, highlighted 3 phrases, and attached them to the emergency petition. They just wrote their own confession, she said. They document their own crimes in writing. Subscribe so you know what to look for before it's buried. Which phrase is most damning? Drop the exact quote in the comments. The courthouse steps were cold. The petition in Monica's briefcase was colder. 63 pages, every receipt, every lie. Wednesday morning, November 8th. Monica wore a navy suit and carried a leather briefcase that looked expensive and serious. I wore the nicest dress I owned, gray, conservative, the one I'd bought for Russell's funeral 3 years ago. We climbed the marble steps of Mecklenburg County Superior Court. The building was massive. intimidating in that way government buildings are designed to be. Heavy doors, high ceilings, hushed hallways where every footstep echoed. "Stay close," Monica said. "We're filing in the clerk's office on the 3rd floor." We took the elevator. My stomach dropped with the ascent. Monica had walked me through this process twice already, but I still felt unprepared. Filing a legal petition against your own daughter? There's no way to prepare for that. The clerk's office was busy, people in suits carrying folders, a woman arguing with a clerk about a missed deadline, phones ringing, printers humming. Monica approached the counter, filing an emergency petition to contest beneficiary designation and freeze estate assets. Case number hasn't been assigned yet. The clerk, a tired-looking man in his 50s, took the petition, flipped through the pages, 63 pages. Monica had organized everything: the Wells Fargo documents, Diane's witness log, hospital records, Preston's emails, forensic signature analysis, timeline comparisons, legal precedents. "Emergency status?" the clerk asked. "Yes, remaining assets at risk of dissipation. Petitioner seeking immediate injunctive relief." He stamped the first page. The sound was loud in the quiet office, a decisive thunk that felt final. "Judge Carver will review for emergency hearing. Expect a call within 72 hours. He handed Monica a receipt. "Respondents will be served within 48 hours. Within 48 hours. Natalie and Preston would receive official notice that I was challenging everything, that I had evidence, that I wasn't the grateful, silent mother they'd counted on. We walked back to the elevator. Monica pressed the button for the ground floor. "What happens now?" I asked. "We wait for the court to schedule the preliminary hearing, usually within 2 weeks for emergency petitions. Judge Carver is fair. She won't let them drag this out." Monica looked at me. "But Mrs. Monroe, you need to prepare. They'll be served tomorrow or Friday. They'll know you have the emails. They'll know we have Diane's testimony and the forensic analysis. They're going to panic." "What does panic look like?" "Aggressive defense. They'll hire the best attorney they can afford, probably someone who specializes in estate litigation. They'll file a response claiming you're unstable, vindictive, trying to manipulate the system. They'll attack your credibility. They might try to paint you as a bitter mother who's been estranged from the family." I thought about the gala, the name card, event support staff. "They already tried that," I said. "Good. Then you know what's coming." But here's what they don't know. We have everything documented. Their emails prove intent. Diane's log proves Russell's incapacity. The forensic analysis proves the signature is questionable. They can attack you all they want, but they can't attack facts. The elevator doors opened. We walked through the lobby, past security, out into the November cold. "Go home," Monica said. "Pack a bag if you think you need to. Stay with a friend if that feels safer. Don't answer calls from Natalie or Preston until after they've been served and we know their legal strategy. And Mrs. Monroe?" She put her hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. This took courage." I drove back to the converted garage, the guest house, my prison for 3 years, pulled into the driveway and saw Preston's Audi in front of the main house. He was home, probably working from his study, taking conference calls, billing hours at $300 each. Inside the garage, I sat on the futon, looked around at 3 years of my life compressed into 200 square feet, the kitchenette with one working burner, the mini fridge humming its constant complaint, the window that looked out at the main house where my grandchildren were probably watching cartoons, where Natalie was probably planning her next client presentation. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica. "Petition filed and stamped. Case assigned to Judge Marianne Carver. Hearing date pending. You're officially on the record. On the record. No going back now." I thought about Emma and Lucas, about the promises Natalie and Preston had made, that I was family, that I'd be taken care of, that everything would work out. About the estate plan that never materialized, about Russell's voice in that hospital room. "You'll be with me after? You won't leave?" I'd left, but not by choice. I pulled out the gala name card from my purse. Event support staff. Ran my thumb over the embossed letters. Tucked it back in carefully. Tomorrow or Friday, a process server would knock on Natalie and Preston's door. They'd be handed copies of the 63-page petition. They'd read their own emails printed as evidence. They'd see Diane's witness log. They'd realize I had documentation of everything. And they'd know I wasn't disappearing quietly. The clerk stamped the petition at 3:17 p.m. Monica turned to me. They'll know by morning. Prepare for the counterstrike. Ever taken the first legal step knowing there's no turning back? What did it feel like? The letter arrived by courier at 7:42 a.m. Thick paper. Law firm letterhead. Opening line. Your baseless allegations constitute defamation and will be met with full legal consequences. Friday morning. I was making coffee on my single working burner when someone knocked on the garage door. Not a friendly knock. Sharp, official, the kind that says this is business. I opened the door. A man in a uniform held out a large envelope. Beatrice Monroe? Yes. Sign here, please. I signed. He handed me the envelope and left. The return address was embossed in gold. Northbridge and Associates, attorneys at law. I sat down on the futon, opened the envelope, pulled out a letter on cream-colored stationery so thick it felt like armor. Cease and desist, false allegations and defamation. Dear Mrs. Monroe, this firm represents Preston and Natalie Whitmore in response to your baseless and defamatory allegations filed in Mecklenburg County Superior Court. Your petition contains false claims of fraud, undue influence, and elder abuse, serious accusations made without merit or factual foundation. I kept reading. The letter went on for 3 pages, each paragraph more aggressive than the last. Your claims that our clients manipulated Russell Kincaid's beneficiary designation are contradicted by the fact that Mr. Kincaid made an informed, voluntary decision to update his estate planning in the months before his death. Your suggestion that he lacked capacity is unsupported by medical evidence and represents a malicious attempt to rewrite history for financial gain. Malicious, financial gain. They were already flipping the narrative. Furthermore, your characterization of your living arrangement as exploitation is both false and offensive. Our clients generously provided you with housing, support, and access to your grandchildren during a difficult period. Your decision to repay their kindness with litigation demonstrates a pattern of instability and vindictiveness. My hands started shaking. Pattern of instability, vindictiveness. Be advised that continued pursuit of these allegations will result in a counterclaim for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and abuse of process. Additionally, your conduct has raised serious concerns about your fitness to maintain unsupervised contact with minor children. Our clients will be forced to seek protective custody arrangements if you persist in this harmful behavior. The tea I'd made earlier sat cold on the counter. I couldn't drink it, couldn't move. The threat about Emma and Lucas landed like a punch. If you persist in this harmful behavior, protective custody arrangements, they were threatening to take away my grandchildren permanently. I read the letter again, slower this time, looking past the aggressive language to what it actually said and didn't say. They claimed Russell made an informed, voluntary decision, but they didn't address the hospital records, didn't address the morphine, didn't address Diane's witness log showing he couldn't hold a pen steady. They called our living arrangement generous support, but they didn't address the lack of compensation, didn't address the employment contract that never existed, didn't address Preston's emails admitting they planned to keep me doing nanny work until we don't need her anymore. The letter was loud and aggressive because they had nothing else. Monica had warned me this would happen. When people have weak facts, they attack the person instead. I picked up my phone, called Monica. She answered on the second ring. Mrs. Monroe, you got served? How did you know? Northbridge and Associates moves fast. They're expensive and they're mean. What did they send? A cease and desist. 3 pages. They're threatening to sue me for defamation and trying to restrict my access to my grandchildren. Read me the exact language about the grandchildren. I read the paragraph about protective custody arrangements. Monica was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm, controlled. That's a bluff. They're trying to scare you into withdrawing the petition. But here's what they don't understand. Family court and probate court are separate systems. They can't restrict your visitation rights through a probate proceeding. They'd have to file a separate custody case and prove you're a danger to the children, which they can't, because you're not. But they could try? They could. But it would backfire spectacularly, because the moment they file, we introduce Preston's emails as evidence of their character. We show the court how they exploited you, isolated you, and threatened you with loss of grandchildren to maintain control. No family court judge will reward that behavior. I exhaled. So what do? Nothing. I respond. Give me an hour. Monica called back 53 minutes later. Done. I sent our response. 3 paragraphs. Professional, factual, devastating. What did you say? That their threats confirm exactly what we alleged, a pattern of intimidation and exploitation, that we welcome full discovery, including their financial records, communications, and testimony under oath, and that any attempt to restrict your grandchildren access will be met with immediate motions demonstrating their abuse of legal process. She paused, and I ended with this. We welcome discovery. Bring every document you have. I smiled. First time in days. Mrs. Monroe, they're scared. That letter proves it. People who are confident in their position don't threaten defamation suits in paragraph 2. They don't weaponize children. They don't hire attack dog attorneys. They present facts and let the facts speak. They don't have facts. Exactly. They have bluster. We have evidence, and the judge will see the difference. After I hung up, I read Northbridge's letter one more time, looked at the signature at the bottom, some partner with 3 initials and Esquire after his name. 3 years ago, a letter like this would have destroyed me, would have sent me crying to Natalie, apologizing, begging forgiveness, promising to drop everything and disappear. But 3 years ago, I didn't have Monica. I didn't have Diane's witness log. I didn't have Preston's emails. I didn't have Russell's hospital records. 3 years ago, I didn't have proof. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, set it on the counter next to the gala name card. Evidence. That's all it was. More evidence of who they really were. Monica's reply was 3 paragraphs. The last line, we welcome discovery. Bring every document you have. Threatened with losing your grandchildren for telling the truth. What's your move? Dr. Patel didn't hesitate. Mr. Kincaid was confused, medically compromised, and unable to make informed financial decisions during that hospital stay. I documented it. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for November 22nd, 2 weeks after we filed, Judge Marianne Carver presiding. Monica and I arrived 30 minutes early. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, American flag in the corner, judge's bench elevated at the front. A handful of people sat in the gallery, other cases waiting their turn. We sat at the petitioner's table on the left side. Monica arranged her files, legal pad, pens, everything precise, everything ready. At 9:25, Natalie and Preston walked in with their attorney, the Northbridge partner whose name I'd seen on the cease and desist letter, Gerald Northbridge himself, 60-something, silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who charges by the minute and knows it. Natalie wore black. Professional, conservative, hair pulled back, no jewelry except her wedding ring. She looked like she was playing the part of grieving daughter defending her father's wishes. Preston wore navy, corporate armor. He carried a briefcase that matched his attorney's. They sat at the respondent's table on the right side, didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me. All rise. Judge Carver entered. Mid-50s, black woman with gray-streaked hair and reading glasses on a chain. She sat, gestured for everyone else to sit, opened the file in front of her. Emergency petition to freeze assets and contest beneficiary designation. Monroe versus Whitmore. She looked up. I've reviewed the initial filings. Ms. Treadwell, you're representing the petitioner. Monica stood. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Northbridge for the respondents? Northbridge stood. Correct, Your Honor. Let's proceed. Ms. Treadwell, your petitioner claims the decedent lacked capacity to execute a beneficiary designation form dated October 14, 2021. What's your evidence? Monica stood. Your Honor, we have medical records showing Russell Kincaid was on high-dose morphine and benzodiazepines following emergency cardiac catheterization on October 12, 2021. We have testimony from his treating cardiologist documenting his impaired cognitive state. We have witness testimony from an HR professional who observed his motor control issues on the same day the form was allegedly signed. And we have forensic handwriting analysis questioning the authenticity of the signature. Judge Carver made notes. You're calling the cardiologist today? Yes, Your Honor, Dr. Rajesh Patel from Carolinas Medical Center. Proceed. Dr. Patel was already in the courtroom. Monica had subpoenaed him and arranged his morning schedule to accommodate the hearing. He walked to the witness stand, got sworn in, sat down. He looked exactly like I remembered from the hospital 3 years ago. Calm, professional, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Monica approached. Dr. Patel, you were Russell Kincaid's cardiologist in October 2021? Yes. Tell the court about his condition following the cardiac catheterization on October 12th. Dr. Patel opened a folder, his medical records. Mr. Kincaid underwent emergency catheterization due to severe chest pain and suspected arterial blockage. The procedure was successful, but his recovery was complicated by medication side effects and age-related factors. He was 63 with pre-existing hypertension. What medications was he on after the procedure? Morphine sulfate for pain management, lorazepam for anxiety, blood thinners, beta blockers. The morphine dose was significant. We needed to control post-procedural pain. How did these medications affect his cognitive function? Dr. Patel looked at Judge Carver. Morphine and lorazepam together can cause significant cognitive impairment, confusion, disorientation, memory issues, difficulty concentrating. In my notes from October 13 and 14, I documented that Mr. Kincaid was exhibiting these symptoms. He had difficulty following conversation. He repeated questions. He couldn't remember what day it was. Monica pulled out a printout. Your Honor, this is Dr. Patel's nursing notes from October 14, 2021. She handed copies to the judge and to Northbridge. Dr. Patel, can you read the relevant section? He found the page. Patient remains disoriented to time and place. Medication-induced confusion persistent. Difficulty with short-term memory. Motor control impaired. Dropped cup during breakfast. Required assistance with basic tasks. Recommend continued observation and gradual medication reduction. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of Judge Carver's pen. Dr. Patel, Monica said, in your medical opinion, was Russell Kincaid capable of making informed financial or legal decisions on October 14, 2021? No, absolutely not. Why not? He was medically compromised. His cognitive function was impaired by medication. He couldn't maintain focus or recall information consistently. Anyone asking him to sign legal documents in that state would be taking advantage of his vulnerability. Monica turned to Judge Carver. Your Honor, Mr. Kincaid's alleged signature on the beneficiary form is dated October 14, 2021, the same day Dr. Patel documented his cognitive and motor impairment. She sat down. Northbridge stood. Approached Dr. Patel with a smile. Doctor, patients recover from procedures all the time. Mr. Kincaid was released from the hospital just 3 days later, correct? Yes. So he was deemed fit for discharge? physically fit, his heart function stabilized. And if he was fit enough to go home, surely he was fit enough to sign a simple form. Dr. Patel's expression didn't change. Physical fitness and cognitive capacity are different things. Mr. Kincaid's heart stabilized, but his cognitive state remained compromised. I noted in my discharge instructions that he should avoid making major decisions for at least 1 week. Northbridge paused. You wrote that? Yes. Standard protocol for patients on high-dose pain medication. Can you provide those discharge instructions? Dr. Patel pulled another page from his folder, handed it to Northbridge. Northbridge read it. His smile faded. He handed it back. No further questions. Judge Carver looked up from her notes. Ms. Treadwell, anything else from this witness? No, Your Honor. Dr. Patel, thank you. You're excused. Dr. Patel stepped down. As he walked past our table, he met my eyes, nodded once, respectful, sad. Judge Carver closed the file. I'm ordering a 30-day continuance for full forensic handwriting analysis. The court will appoint an independent expert to examine the disputed signature. In the meantime, she looked at Northbridge. I'm granting the petitioner's request to freeze the remaining assets pending resolution. Northbridge stood. Your Honor, that's highly prejudicial. Mr. Northbridge, your client spent $150,000 of disputed funds in 6 months. Dr. Patel's testimony establishes serious questions about capacity. I'm protecting the remaining assets until we have answers. 30 days. We reconvene December 20th for the forensic report. She banged the gavel. The judge looked up from her notes. Proceed with forensic handwriting analysis. I want an independent expert's report within 30 days. Medical records don't lie, but you have to request them. Subscribe so you learn what documents matter most. Doctor's testimony or financial records. Which evidence type would you trust more? The handwriting analyst used 14 comparison points. 12 showed significant deviation. The signature on the beneficiary form? Likely not executed by Russell Kincaid. The forensic document examiner's report arrived December 18th, 2 days before our next hearing. Monica called me as soon as it landed in her inbox. Mrs. Monroe, we got it. The analysis is done. And? It's better than I hoped. Can you come to the office? I drove there in 20 minutes. Monica had the report printed, highlighted, annotated. She slid it across her desk. The cover page was official. Forensic Document Examination Report. Court-appointed expert analysis. Examiner, Dr. Patricia Chen, certified forensic document. Examiner case, Monroe v. Whitmore document in question. Life insurance beneficiary designation form dated October 14, 2021. I flipped to the findings section. Methodology. 14 comparison points were analyzed between known authentic signatures of Russell Kincaid, obtained from employment documents, estate paperwork, and witnessed hospital forms, and the disputed signature on the beneficiary designation form dated October 14, 2021. The report included photographs. Side-by-side comparisons of Russell's signatures blown up and marked with tiny numbered arrows pointing to specific features. Comparison point 1, baseline slant, known signatures, 7-degree forward slant, consistent across all exemplars. Disputed signature, 3-degree forward slant, inconsistent with established pattern. Comparison point 2, letter formation, capital R, known signatures, loop formation with hesitation mark at apex. Disputed signature, smooth loop without hesitation, suggesting faster execution. Comparison point 3, pressure patterns, known signatures, varied pressure with heavier downstrokes indicating natural writing rhythm. Disputed signature, uniform pressure throughout, consistent with tracing or simulation on and on. 14 points, 12 showing deviations. I flipped to the conclusion. Findings. The signature on the disputed beneficiary form exhibits characteristics inconsistent with the known writing habits of Russell Kincaid. Specifically, 1. Lack of natural tremor patterns present in all known exemplars from the same time period, too. Uniform pressure inconsistent with Mr. Kincaid's documented motor control issues in October 2021. 3. Baseline and slant deviations suggesting possible simulation or tracing. Absence of hesitation marks present in authentic signatures. Conclusion: it is this examiner's professional opinion that the signature on the October 14, 2021 beneficiary designation form was likely not executed by Russell Kincaid. The probability of authenticity is assessed at less than 15%. Less than 15%. I looked at Monica. This proves it was forged. It proves the signature is inconsistent with Russell's known writing patterns. Technically, the examiner can't definitively say forged. That's a legal determination, not a scientific one. But less than 15% probability of authenticity is as close as forensic experts get to saying it's fake. She pulled out her highlighter, drew a thick yellow line under the conclusion. Mrs. Monroe, this is the smoking gun. Combined with Dr. Patel's testimony about Russell's impaired state and Preston's emails showing premeditation, we have an ironclad case. The signature is questionable. The circumstances were exploitative. The intent was fraudulent. What happens at the hearing? Dr. Chen will testify. She'll walk the judge through her analysis. Northbridge will try to challenge her methodology. But she's court-appointed and highly credentialed. Judge Carver requested this analysis specifically. She's not going to ignore it. Monica leaned forward. After Dr. Chen testifies, I'm filing a motion for summary judgment. We'll ask the judge to invalidate the beneficiary designation, restore Russell's 2019 estate plan, naming you as primary beneficiary, and award you the remaining insurance funds plus damages for the exploitation you suffered. Will they settle? After this report? They'd be smart to. Going to trial means all of this becomes public record. Preston's emails, Dr. Patel's testimony about Russell's incapacity, Dr. Chen's conclusion that the signature is likely forged. Natalie and Preston's reputations would be destroyed. I looked at the report again. The comparison photographs. Russell's real signature, shaky, cramped, authentic. The disputed signature, smooth, confident, wrong. Someone had traced his name while he was dying, or forged it after he was gone. Either way, they'd stolen his voice. How long until the hearing? I asked. Day after tomorrow, December 20th, 10 a.m. 2 days. 2 days until a judge heard forensic proof that Natalie and Preston had committed fraud. I thought about the gala, the name card, the converted garage, 3 years of being invisible, 3 years of being told I was family while being treated like help. Monica, I said quietly, if they don't settle, if this goes to trial and becomes public record, I'm okay with that. She nodded. I thought you might be. Monica attached the report to a motion for summary judgment. They can settle now, or we go to trial and this becomes public record. Forensic proof of forgery, settlement or trial. What would you choose? The offer came on a Friday, $320,000. Acknowledgement of Russell's original intent, guaranteed visitation rights. Preston's lawyer didn't make eye contact during the call. January 26th, 6 weeks after the forensic report landed. 6 weeks of silence from Northbridge and Associates while they calculated their options. Monica called me at 8 in the morning. Settlement conference requested, today at 2. They want to talk. That fast? They know they're cornered. Dr. Chen's report destroyed their defense. If this goes to trial, everything becomes public. Preston's emails, the forgery evidence, Dr. Patel's testimony. They can't risk it. I drove to Monica's office an hour early. Sat in the waiting room drinking bad coffee from a paper cup, thinking about what settlement meant. Money, yes, but also closure. An end to the fight, no trial, no public vindication. Just a quiet agreement and everyone moving on. At 1:30, Monica and I walked 3 blocks to Northbridge's offices. Glass tower, marble lobby, everything designed to intimidate. We took the elevator to the 14th floor, conference room with a view of uptown Charlotte. Northbridge was already there. So was another attorney I didn't recognize, probably brought in specifically for settlement negotiations. Natalie's and Preston weren't present. Ms. Treadwell. Northbridge stood, gestured to chairs. Professional, cold. Thank you for coming. We sat. Monica pulled out her legal pad. Northbridge slid a folder across the table. Our clients have authorized us to make the following offer. I opened the folder. Settlement agreement. 5 pages of legal language. Monica leaned over, read with me. Settlement terms. 1. Monetary recovery payment of $320,000 to Beatrice Monroe, representing the remaining balance of Russell Kincaid's life insurance proceeds after documented expenditures. Payment to be made via certified check within 10 business days of agreement execution. $320,000. Not the full $470,000. They'd already spent $150,000 on cars and renovations and Natalie's business. But what remained? Everything left. 2. Court acknowledgement. Formal court filing. Acknowledging that Russell Kincaid's original 2019 estate plan, naming Beatrice Monroe as sole primary beneficiary, represented his true testamentary intent. October 2021 beneficiary designation form to be deemed invalid due to lack of capacity. His true intent, on the record. Russell had wanted me protected. The court would say so officially. 3. Visitation rights. Legally binding agreement, guaranteeing Beatrice Monroe unsupervised visitation with minor children. Emma Whitmore and Lucas Whitmore twice monthly, minimum 4 hours per visit, at locations mutually agreed upon. Visitation schedule to be coordinated via written communication, text or email, with minimum 48-hour notice. Twice monthly. In writing. Enforceable. They couldn't take my grandchildren away ever again. 4. Non-disparagement. All parties agree to refrain from public statements disparaging the character or conduct of other parties. This includes but is not limited to social media posts, interviews, and communications with third parties unrelated to legal proceedings. Mutual silence. Nobody talks about what happened. Nobody tells the story. 5. Confidentiality settlement terms and underlying facts to remain confidential, except as required by law or court order. Public court filings to be minimal and procedural only. Everything buried. The emails, the forgery evidence, Dr. Patel's testimony, all of it sealed away from public view. I looked at Monica. They want this to disappear. Yes, that's the price of settlement. You get the money and the acknowledgement, but the story stays private. No public trial, no news coverage, no vindication beyond what's in this agreement. What if I say no? We go to trial. Everything becomes public record. You might recover more in damages, but it'll take months, maybe a year. Legal fees will eat into the recovery, and you'll have to testify. So will Natalie and Preston. Your grandchildren might be called as witnesses about the living conditions, the exploitation. Emma and Lucas testifying, 8 and 6 years old, answering questions about Grandma living in the garage, about who cooked dinner and picked them up from school, about the gala where I wasn't allowed to sit with family. I read the settlement terms again, slower. This is full recovery, Monica said quietly. Everything Russell intended you to have, plus guaranteed access to your grandchildren that they can't challenge or revoke, plus court acknowledgement that he wanted you protected. But no public accountability. No, they buy their privacy with this settlement. That's the trade. I thought about Russell, about what he would want, justice or peace, vindication or resolution. About Emma and Lucas growing up knowing their mother and father had been publicly exposed as frauds and exploiters, or growing up with a quiet settlement and a grandmother who saw them twice monthly without drama, about the other widows out there, the ones who'd get calls from their daughters' husbands asking about life insurance, the ones who'd move into guest houses and start doing family work without contracts, the ones who needed to know this story so they could recognize the pattern before it trapped them. But those widows wouldn't hear this story if it stayed sealed. Settlement meant silence. "Can I request one change?" I asked. Northbridge looked at me. First time he'd made direct eye contact. "What change?" "I want permission to share my story anonymously with elder advocacy groups and financial literacy programs. No names, no identifying details, just the facts of what happened and how to protect against it, not for publicity, for education." He glanced at his co-counsel, whispered something, looked back at me. "We can add language permitting anonymized educational use for nonprofit purposes, provided no parties are named or identifiable." Monica made a note. "I'll draft the addendum." I looked at the settlement one more time. Money, acknowledgement, grandchildren, the truth documented, even if not publicized. "I want 24 hours to decide." Northbridge nodded. "The offer stands until Monday at 5 p.m. After that, we proceed to trial." Monica and I left, walked back to her office in silence. When we got there, she closed the door. "Mrs. Monroe, this is a good settlement. You won't get everything you deserve, but you'll get everything you can actually use. The money secures your future. The visitation protects your relationship with your grandchildren. The court acknowledgement validates Russell's intent, and you can still teach other people what you learned, just not with names attached. It feels like they're getting away with it. They're paying $320,000 in admitting fraud in a court document. That's not nothing. And Mrs. Monroe," she leaned forward, "you stood up, you fought, you proved they were wrong. Whether the world knows it or not, you know it. That matters." I went home to the converted garage, sat on the futon, looked at the gala name card I'd kept on the kitchenette counter. Event support staff. That's what they'd tried to make me. That's what I'd refused to stay. Monday at 3 p.m., I called Monica. "I'll take the settlement." She filed the acceptance at 4:33, got confirmation at 4:47. I signed at 4:33 p.m. on a Tuesday. Natalie signed remotely. We haven't spoken since. Settlement or public trial? Money plus peace versus full exposure? Cast your vote. I walked through the converted garage one last time. The mini fridge still hummed. I left the keys on the kitchenette counter and didn't look back. February 8th, the certified check cleared 3 days ago. $320,000 in my account. First time in my life I'd seen that much money with my name on it. Monica helped me find a real estate agent. We looked at condos in Huntersville, far enough from Myers Park to feel like escape, close enough to Charlotte for the twice-monthly visits with Emma and Lucas. The move-out was scheduled for a Wednesday. Natalie and Preston arranged to be gone. Their attorney had specified in the settlement, parties agree to coordinate moving logistics to minimize direct contact during transition period. Translation: we don't want to see you leave. I packed 3 years of my life into boxes, clothes, books, photos, kitchen supplies I'd bought to replace the inadequate ones in the kitchenette. The futon stayed, it came with the guest house. So did the mini fridge and the hot plate with one working burner. The movers arrived at 9. 2 guys with a truck. They loaded boxes efficiently, professionally, asking no questions about why a 66-year-old woman was moving out of a garage. By 11, the converted space was empty, except for the furniture that wasn't mine. I stood in the middle of the room, looked at the kitchenette where I'd heated 3 years of lonely dinners, the window where I'd watched the main house and felt invisible, the bathroom with the shower that never quite got hot enough. The garage door gave its familiar squeak when I opened it. I'd heard that sound hundreds of times, coming home from grocery shopping for someone else's family, from picking up someone else's children, from errands and tasks and unpaid labor disguised as helping out. I walked outside. The main house looked the same as always, 2-story brick estate, manicured lawn, BMWs in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, I could see movement. Probably the housekeeper Natalie had finally hired 2 months ago when I filed the petition and stopped being available. Emma's bike was on the front porch, Lucas's soccer ball in the yard, lights on in the living room, life continuing, just without me in it. The movers were waiting by their truck. "Ma'am, we're ready when you are." 1 minute. I walked to my Toyota, sat in the driver's seat, looked at the guest house one more time. 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing I was family. 3 years of cooking and cleaning and raising children while living in a converted garage with no contract and no compensation and promises that never materialized. I thought about Russell, about how he'd worked extra shifts to pay off our mortgage so I'd be secure, about his voice in the hospital, "You won't leave?" About his life insurance policy that was supposed to protect me. He'd tried. He'd done everything right, and it still got stolen, but I got it back. Not all of it, not everything, but enough. I started the car, followed the moving truck out of the driveway, drove past the main house without slowing down. In my rearview mirror, the Whitmore estate got smaller. The guest house, the manicured lawn, the life I'd thought I was part of. Gone. The condo in Huntersville had a real kitchen, 2 burners that worked, a lease with my name, just my name on it. Would you have visited the guest house one last time, or left without looking back? The instructor asked why I'd enrolled. I held up a bank statement and a name card labeled Event Support Staff. That's all the explanation she needed. August. 6 months after the settlement. 6 months of living alone in my condo, seeing Emma and Lucas twice monthly at parks and museums, learning how to be independent again at 66. The money was in a trust account Monica had helped me set up. Invested conservatively, generating enough income that I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. But I wanted to work. Not for money, for purpose. I saw the ad on a community bulletin board at the library. Financial Planning Certification Program for Women over 60, Central Piedmont Community College. I called, got the details. 12-week course, evening classes twice a week. Topics included estate planning basics, beneficiary designation protocols, elder financial abuse recognition, legal document literacy, retirement account management. Registration was $400. First class started September 12th. I showed up 20 minutes early. The classroom was standard community college. Tile floors, long tables with plastic chairs, whiteboard at the front, coffee station in the corner with styrofoam cups and powdered creamer. 18 other women, ages ranging from early 60s to late 70s. Some dressed professionally, some in comfortable clothes like they'd come straight from other jobs. One woman had a walker. Another had brought her adult daughter as a support person. The instructor was a certified financial planner named Linda, mid-50s, practical haircut, wedding ring, kind eyes. She went around the room asking everyone to introduce themselves and explain why they'd enrolled. "I'm recently widowed. My husband handled all the finances. I don't even know what accounts we have. My daughter keeps asking me to sign power of attorney papers. Something feels wrong, but I don't know how to say no. I got scammed last year. Lost $30,000 to someone pretending to be from the IRS. I never want to feel that stupid again. My son wants me to add him to my house deed. He says it's for estate planning. I want to know if that's true." When it got to me, I pulled out 2 things from my purse. The bank statement showing the settlement deposit, the gala name card. I'm Beatrice. My husband died 3 years ago. His life insurance, $470,000, was stolen through a forged beneficiary form while he was medicated in the hospital. I spent 3 years doing unpaid labor for my daughter's family before I figured out what happened. I had to sue to get the money back. And this, I held up the name card. This is from a charity gala where they seated me with the catering staff after I'd spent 2 weeks preparing it. I'm here because I never want another woman to go through what I went through, and I want to help the ones who are going through it now. The room went quiet. Linda looked at me for a long moment. "Beatrice, welcome. You're going to be an incredible resource in this class." The curriculum was exactly what I needed. Week 1, understanding beneficiary designations and how to verify them. Week 2, recognizing undue influence and capacity issues. Week 3, power of attorney versus guardianship. Week 4, protecting assets during vulnerable periods. I took notes on everything, asked questions, shared my story, anonymously per the settlement agreement, but in enough detail that the lessons landed. During week 5, Linda pulled me aside after class. "Beatrice, I'm teaching this material, but you lived it. Would you be willing to share your case without names as a teaching example? I think it would help the other students understand what exploitation actually looks like." I said yes. The next class, I walked them through the timeline: Russell's death, the move to the guest house, the missing compensation, the beneficiary form signed while he was medicated, the emails proving premeditation, the forensic analysis, the settlement. "What do I wish I'd known?" I said at the end. 3 things. 1, get copies of every beneficiary designation, not just what someone tells you it says, actual copies. 2, if someone promises to take care of you financially, get it in writing with specific terms. Verbal promises mean nothing. 3, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't talk yourself out of investigating. A woman in the back row raised her hand. She was crying. "My son-in-law has been asking about my late husband's life insurance. He says he's helping me with paperwork, but he keeps saying I'm too stressed to handle it right now. He wants me to sign forms, but he hasn't shown me what they say." I looked at Linda. She nodded. "Get the hospital records," I said. "Get copies of every form with your husband's signature from the last month of his life. Get his employment records, and get a lawyer before you sign anything else. Not a family lawyer, a probate litigation attorney who specializes in estate fraud." She wrote it down, hands shaking. After class, 3 other women asked for my phone number. In case we need advice, I gave it to them. By November, I'd become an informal mentor. Women from the class would call with questions. "My daughter wants me to refinance my house and add her as co-borrower. Is this normal?" "My brother-in-law is pressuring me to invest in his business. How do I say no?" "I found out my son has been using my credit cards. What do I do?" I'd talk them through it. Sometimes just listening was enough. Sometimes I'd say, call a lawyer. Sometimes I'd say, get copies of everything first. The certification arrived in March. By April, I'd started volunteering with elder advocacy groups. The first training session had 37 attendees. Education is insurance they can't steal. Subscribe. I share every resource that protects you. What skill would you learn to protect yourself after something like this? The frame cost $12 at Target. The name card inside? Priceless. Event support staff. Proof that the people who erase you don't get to write your ending. 1 year after the settlement. February again. The anniversary of walking out of that converted garage. My Huntersville condo had become home, real home, not borrowed space or guest quarters or temporary arrangements. Mine. The kitchen was small but functional. 2 burners that both worked. A full-size refrigerator that didn't hum complaints all night. Counter space where I could actually cook. Above my desk, a small wooden table by the window where I reviewed case files for the advocacy work. I'd hung the name card from the gala, framed in simple black, under glass, event support staff. A volunteer named Patricia came over one Tuesday afternoon to pick up training materials. She saw the frame, stopped, read it. "Why do you have that on your wall?" I poured us both coffee, sat down at the kitchen table. "That's from the night everything changed, October 2024. My daughter hosted a charity gala at her estate. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing, coordinating vendors, arranging flowers, hand-sewing table linens. When I arrived, they'd seated me at a corner table with the catering staff and the photographer's assistant. My own daughter walked past me like I was part of the furniture." Patricia's eyes widened. I could have thrown a scene, could have confronted her in front of 200 guests, but I didn't. I picked up that card, walked to my car, and drove straight to the bank to get copies of my husband's life insurance records. That card is proof of what they wanted me to accept, that I was support staff in my own family's life, that I was invisible, erasable. But you didn't accept it. No, I turned it into evidence, not evidence of my worthlessness, evidence of their cruelty, and cruelty documented is cruelty defeated. I gestured around the kitchen. Photos on the walls, Emma and Lucas from our court-approved visits, at Reedy Creek Park, at Discovery Place Science Museum, eating ice cream in Plaza Midwood, my certification from the financial planning program, a thank you letter from a widow I'd helped recover $180,000 in stolen assets after her stepson had forged her husband's will. This card hangs here because it reminds me that the worst moments can become the turning points, that humiliation documented becomes ammunition, that the people who try to erase you don't get to write the final chapter. Patricia touched the frame gently. I need to document things. What things? My son's girlfriend has been pressuring my husband to change his will. She's young, pretty, manipulative. She's convinced my husband I'm unstable. Last week he mentioned maybe updating his beneficiaries, just to be fair to everyone. I laughed it off, but get copies of everything. Current will, current beneficiary designations on all accounts, bank statements, property deeds. Today, not tomorrow, today. He'll think I don't trust him. Trust isn't the issue, protection is. You're not accusing him of anything. You're creating a baseline so if something changes, you have proof of what it was before. She nodded, pulled out her phone, started making notes. Last month, a woman called about her son-in-law's sudden interest in her late husband's life insurance. I told her to get hospital records first. She did. The signature was wrong. What object from your hardest moment would you frame as proof you survived? The visits happen at a park equidistant between Huntersville and Myers Park. Neutral ground. My grandchildren run to me first now, not because they have to, but because they want to. Present day, March 2025, 15 months after the settlement. The routine is established now, steady, predictable, in the best way. Every other Saturday, I meet Emma and Lucas at Reedy Creek Park. Sometimes we go to Discovery Place Science Museum if it's raining. Sometimes we get ice cream in Plaza Midwood. Sometimes we just walk around Freedom Park and talk. Today it's the playground at Reedy. Emma is 9 now. Lucas is 7. They're taller than I remember from 3 years ago when I lived in the guest house, growing up fast. Natalie drops them off at 10, pulls up in her BMW, parks in the lot, texts me. Here. She doesn't get out. The kids climb out of the back seat with their backpacks, snacks, water bottles, whatever they need for 4 hours. I watch from the bench near the swings. Emma sees me first, waves, grabs Lucas's hand. They run across the grass. Grandma! Emma hugs me hard. Lucas is more reserved, always has been, but he leans into my side when I put my arm around him. How are you guys? Good. I got an A on my science project. Lucas lost a tooth. It was loose for 2 weeks. We walk to the playground. Emma heads for the monkey bars. Lucas wants to dig in the sandbox. I sit on the bench and watch. An hour in, Emma comes over. Sits next to me, swings her legs. Grandma, why did you move? We've had this conversation before, variations of it. I keep my answers age-appropriate, truthful without details that would hurt them. Sometimes grown-ups need space to be themselves. I needed my own place where I could do my work and have my own life. Do you like your new place? I love it. It has a real kitchen, 2 burners that work, and a desk where I help other grandmas who need advice. What kind of advice? How to protect themselves, how to make sure they're treated fairly, how to keep promises that adults make. Emma thinks about this. Mom said you were mad at her. I choose my words carefully. I was hurt. But hurt and mad are different things. When someone you love treats you like you don't matter, it hurts. That doesn't mean you stop loving them. It just means you have to take care of yourself. Do you still love Mom? Yes, always. Does she love you? Harder question. Honest answer. I think she loves me in the way she knows how. But love without respect isn't enough. Adults should keep their promises. They should treat people fairly even when it's family. Lucas runs over. Grandma, can you push me on the swings? Absolutely. I push Lucas for 20 minutes. Emma joins. We talk about school, friends, weekend plans, normal things, good things. At 1:30, we get sandwiches from the park cafe, sit at a picnic table under oak trees, March sun warming our shoulders. Grandma, Lucas says through a mouthful of peanut butter, why do we write things down? I smile. This is a game we play now, questions and answers, teaching without preaching. So people remember what they promised. Words disappear. Paper stays. Like a contract? Exactly like a contract. If someone promises you something important, you write it down. Both people sign it. That way nobody forgets. Emma rolls her eyes. You sound like a lawyer. I sound like someone who learned the hard way. At 2:30, we walk back to the parking lot. Natalie's BMW pulls in at 2:45, exactly on time. She stays in the car. The kids hug me goodbye. Emma tight. Lucas quick but genuine. See you in 2 weeks? 2 weeks, same place. They climb into the back seat. Natalie puts the car in gear, drives away without looking at me. I watch until they're gone, walk to my Toyota, sit in the driver's seat. On the drive home, I pass the Whitmore estate. The string lights are still up from some recent event. The lawn is perfect. The house looks exactly like it did when I lived behind it in a converted garage. I don't slow down. My kitchen has 2 working burners, a framed name card, and a phone that rings with people who need help recognizing the erasure before it's complete. That's not the ending they planned for me, but it's the one I wrote. Russell would be proud, I think. Not of the fight, not of the lawsuit or the settlement or the money. He'd be proud that I stood up, that I didn't disappear, that I protected myself the way he'd tried to protect me, and he'd be proud that I'm teaching other women to do the same, that his story, our story, is helping people recognize the patterns before they become traps. I pull into my condo complex, park in my assigned spot, walk up the stairs to my second-floor unit, unlock the door, step into my space, my home. The phone rings before I've even put my purse down. Mrs. Monroe, my name is Linda. I got your number from the advocacy group. My daughter-in-law just asked me to sign over power of attorney, and I don't understand what it means. Can you help? I sit down at my desk, pull out a notepad. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning.